So there has been a certain amount of angst and anger amongst the populace with the stuff that's been going on in politics in our Supreme Court this week. And I figured rather than just ignore that and brush it under the rug, we would actually talk about it a little bit. And actually the title of the talk today is Higher Calling, and it kind of dovetails into that. And my favorite thing that happened this week was actually a piece of the Stephen Colbert show. So he made this big deal, and he says, so we're doing the math, and this is like on Thursday night. He says, we're doing the math on this Brett Kavanaugh nomination to the Supreme Court. He says, when it was announced in July, it was 51-49. And now, and he goes and he gets like an adding machine. And he does the numbers, there's some more numbers, there's some more numbers. He puts it with his elbow, he says, yeah, 51-49. And in the intervening months, there's been all sorts of energy and drama and stuff, which is a technical term. It's really easy for us to get wrapped up in the anger about the what that's going on, and then try to go through that spiritual process of surrender and letting go and acceptance and the rest of that. And that's true. And there's more to it than that. What we need to do is get ourselves back to that higher idea, back to principle. There is one. It is not us and them. It is not the bad guy and the good guy. It is not what we want and what we don't want. There's one. There's love unfolding here somehow, even when it doesn't look that way. It's really easy to see God on a beautiful spring day. It's in the middle of the storm at sea when the boat is sinking to keep our eye on the fact that there is one infinite love, there's one power and one presence. It's not that we have to invite those horrible, challenging situations into our lives just to prove that we can deal with it. It's that when those situations come along, we get to remind ourselves of the truth, capital T. There is only one. There is only love. Albert Einstein very famously said, we cannot solve a problem at the same level of energy at which the problem was created. Now, he was in a lot of ways talking about quantum physics. And in a lot of ways, he's also talking about the creative process itself. That when we are dealing with the situation on the level of the situation, we're trying to move the pieces around on the playing field. We're trying to say, what can we do? What can we say? What are they trying to do? What are they saying? As we're jockeying for position on this particular plane, this playing field, this level of energy. What he says is we have to go to a higher level of energy. We need to go to that higher expression, what Emma Curtis Hopkins calls the high watch. Approach this as though this is all love. Might not look like love. Might not look like anything good at all. It might actually, to use the spiritual term, it might actually sucketh in our world of experience. And there's something bigger going on. There's a creative law. That creative law is that everything is possible. And with a powerful creative intention, we are able to create something new using that same law. We can take ourselves to that higher level of energy, of attention, of our own purity, and see something better. Anybody here ever heard the golden rule?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. What's the golden rule?
He who has the gold.
Golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And our friend, Reverend Dr. Celeste Turkin, who at this point is a minister in Boca Raton, Florida. She's been all over the country. She's brilliant. She's the archivist for basically for New Thought and religious science. She was in California for a while. I actually met her in Tampa. We were both members of the same little tiny community down there. She has some other rules. She has some other versions of the golden rule. She starts at the iron rule. Do unto others before they do unto you. Now that's kind of the energetically, that's the reptile level. That's kill it, eat it. See it, kill it, eat it. And the iron rule. And we can look at the way some things are playing out in our lives and say, yeah, that's the iron rule. Do unto others before they do unto you. And a little bit better than that is a silver rule, which is do unto others as they do unto you. That's what goes around comes around. That's the revenge level. I might not have gotten to it beforehand, but I'm going to do it to them later. And the interesting thing about both of those is that those are those, and we can see it here, and we can diagnose it, especially when we're talking about other people, as that's a lower level of energy. And the golden rule is do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And that's where we're living on what I think of as the level playing field. So I don't want something because it's better for me. I want something because it's better for everybody. When we get into the idea that there's a zero-sum game, that in order for somebody to win, somebody else has to lose, then we've lost. And we've identified that. I've talked about it with sporting events. I mean, sporting events are classic because in a sporting event, you have to have a loser. If you don't have a loser, then the game isn't over. And that means you can't go on to the next game. Or the season's not over because you have a championship from 1978. So that opens the way for, well, what's going to happen in 1979? And still nobody cares because that's still decades ago. So that's all about what's the activity? What's the dance? What's the game that we're going to be playing today? But it's a game. And that's not necessarily the way that life has to work. Life can work by everybody getting to that higher level. Everybody getting to a place where things are different. And the transition that gets to happen for us is we switch from, what do I want? Because I can look at the world around me and say, this is what I want. I want this for my health. I want this for my career. I want that for my income. I want this person for my relationship, for my spouse. I want my kids to behave this way so that they're happy. Or so that I'm happy. Okay, so that I'm happy. They can be happy too if they want, and if they have to wait to be happy, then I'm all right with that as well. But that's, what do I want? Or how do I want it to show up? And that's okay. It's okay to identify what it is that we want. But when we're taking that to that higher level, when we're going to our higher calling, instead of what do I want, it's who am I in this new situation? What am I bringing to it? Because if it's true, as we say every Sunday, and many of us between Sundays, your new life begins with a new thought, you are absolutely not going to be able to create a new life by having an old thought. You cannot go along thinking the same things that you've thought, doing the same things that you've done, and expect a new result. That is the very definition of insanity. So, the new thought is about putting away the old thoughts and say, okay, how can these pieces fit together differently? It's been done before. Various people throughout history have done that. I mean, in the reading from Edwin Gaines today, she mentioned Gandhi. Gandhi had no power. The British were ruling India with an iron fist. The power differential was astounding. There was no way to overthrow British rule. And Gandhi took the turn the other cheek thing that Jesus espoused to the next level. What he did was he looked at what's going to be better for everybody, and everybody in India. And that was to allow the truth that this was their land, that this was their country, that this is who they were, that they were self-governing, and didn't worry about, let's fight them. Let's take up arms. Let's engage with our overseers the way that they're engaging with us. That novel idea of nonviolence. And the people at the time thought that was insane. Why would you send crowd after crowd to the British soldiers to get beaten up? And eventually it changed. Because it turned out that by bringing that to their attention, the British realized that's not who they wanted to be. That's not the truth of them. That was brought into stark contrast for them, and things changed. He did not do that. at the level where everybody had been operating. You did that by going to a higher level. So there's some other rules that even go beyond the golden rule. The golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. There's the platinum rule. Do unto others as they would have you do unto them. That's empathy. That's understanding that there's so much good available in the world that you can generously give whatever it is that somebody is looking for to them and not be diminished yourself. That's the opposite of the zero-sum game. You know, we talk about money. If I give somebody money, then I'll have less money. And that's plain arithmetic. If I want you to have a breath, only under very, very rare circumstances will me holding my breath give you another breath. And that's always in one of those submarine movies. Anybody ever been in one of those situations where you're in a submarine and you're sharing oxygen and there's only a little bit left? No? Yeah, you didn't think so. In real life, that doesn't happen. That just doesn't happen. So we don't think about that. It never happens with love. There is no situation where withholding love from somebody else is going to make you better. I might not be happy with somebody's behavior. I might not be feeling particularly friendly towards them. And that's all about the level of energy where I am at that particular moment. But there's only love. This is a universe of infinite love. I cannot withhold love from somebody unless they're willing to feel like there's no love because I'm not giving it to them, in which case we're playing at this level. Do unto others as they would have you do unto them, to be that bright light of love, to share that love, to go beyond whatever sense of limitation that you might have had up until now, and be open to whatever's next. There are circumstances where I absolutely without question, know what's going to be the best thing to have happen. In many of those situations, I'm wrong. But that doesn't affect my attitude and my arrogance and my opinion. Yeah, I have my opinions. The idea is to understand that it's just an opinion. And it's an opinion at the level of my experience. Ernest Holmes says that we are able to look a fact in the face and know something better. And he's talking about exactly the same thing, about being at this level of energy. And that's where the facts are. This is the situation, this is the stuff that's going on, and now I'm going to know something better. I'm going to take myself to that higher level. And I'm going to know that whatever is going on here, there's something new that's possible, that's coming about. Sometimes I have some ideas about how it can work, about how it ought to work. Sometimes I'm right. I'm pretty good at playing this game. Sometimes I'm completely wrong. Sometimes I have absolutely no clue. But that's why they call it a mystery. If anybody knew all of the answers, then we wouldn't be having a human experience. We'd be having a different experience. And maybe when we're done with the human life, there's a different experience where we know everything that's going to happen. We still find a way to enjoy it. I don't know. That's above my pay grade. It doesn't particularly affect me. There's the titanium rule. It's even higher up than the platinum rule. Do unto others as spirit has done unto you. Do unto others as spirit has done unto you. Spirit is engaging with you and me and everybody and everything, right now and at all times, in unconditional love. If you can do unto others as spirit has done unto you, then you are able to engage with everyone and everything with unconditional love. Let go of all the attachment to the things that are going on and step into that newness of whatever it is that's coming next. And sometimes that works. I of myself favor a little bit of control from time to time. Anybody else find themselves liking to be in control ever? Come on, you can. I won't tell anybody. Okay. We like to be in control. Our ego tells us we like to be in control. Our ego tells us that it's important for us to be in control because if we're not in control, then horrible things are going to happen, even if they're not necessarily going to happen, and even if our ego happens to be mistaken. But I like to be in control. I like to be able to fit the pieces together in the way that I want them to fit together. And sometimes they just don't. So last weekend we had the Higher Vibe Positive Music Festival, which, yeah, give ourselves a hand. And it was an amazing experience. And the way that we're describing it is that the music was spectacular, the venue was gorgeous, the weather on a scale of 1 to 10 was an 11 or a 12. The organization, the logistics, the volunteers were spot on spectacular. Absolutely everything came together. And the only thing that wasn't as happy as we wanted it to be was that there wasn't as big a crowd as we wanted. Well, it's really easy to be disheartened about that. It's really easy to say, oh, it was not a success because there were 150 people instead of 250 or 500 or 750 people in the courtyard. And just from that perspective, on the one hand, it's sad because there are people who could have been there who could have gotten into that vibe with us, and that would have been wonderful. And it's completely possible that there's something else going on here about which we have no idea. So as you probably know, I spent a fair amount of time back in the good old days in the radio business. And so I was a zany morning air personality and disc jockey, and I was one of the people who brought new wave music into mainstream culture 40 years ago. So I knew how to do this stuff back in the good old days, and then I stopped. It was kind of like putting away childish things. There were two people at the festival who have a background in radio, and both of them said, this needs to be on the radio, and you need to do it. And that's something that's been percolating for a while before, and it's like, and there's been that nudging, that urging for me to do something in radio again, and I've been resistant, which is okay. And then one of the guys actually says, yeah, I can get you an hour a week on a radio station in New York City. It's like, okay. So maybe that's the higher vibe. I don't know. I don't know. What I do know is that it's my job to say yes. Whatever the invitation is that's coming along, it's my job to say yes, to see what if, what's possible, how can this fit together in a way that makes sense. And I'm so often not right about these things. I had this great idea as we were going into the Higher Vibe Festival. Oh, we got a TV crew that's shooting this thing. They did a 4-camera shoot with spectacular recording of the sound. So we have the whole thing, and we had the invitation to put it all on newthoughtchannel.com. Newthoughtchannel.com was one of the sponsors, and everything was perfect except newthoughtchannel.com went dark last week.
Really? Wow.
Whoops. And I understand why. I mean, it's expensive to run a streaming video system. And that's not the end of it. Their chief operations officer, Paul Anguthrayan, who's a friend of mine now and was going to come to the festival, she said, hey, this thing happens and we ran out of funding, so we're going to stop. And it turns out that everybody who was working on that already has another job. So for them, it's going to be okay. And for the people who have the archive that was newthoughtchannel.com, that archive still exists. The videos are still in existence. It was an idea. It raised that vibration. It raised the level. It got me thinking about recording the festival and bringing all this technology together. And now there are people saying, let's do it as a radio thing. Let's make this happen. And that's the only thing that I know for sure. When that creative energy starts to work, it's irresistible. There's something new coming. What's it going to be? I don't know. But I know that the answer to it is yes. And that's true for each of us. When we can let go of do unto others before they do unto you, or as they have done unto you, and take it to that do unto others as you would have them do unto you, or as Spirit has done unto you. We're taking ourselves to that higher level. That is our higher calling. That is the way that we elevate and bring more love into our lives and into the world around us. Because it's the sort of thing that once there's love, you can't make it go away. So find your higher calling and say yes to it, even if you don't understand exactly what the question is. So you deserve all that good, so it is, thank you.